Tonight, up to our ears in noise.
All day and all night. Look how close the buildings are to the elevated train. So imagine what that's like. Plus you have the nuisance in the background, a speaker actually in a window that's infiltrating the whole block with noise.
A man who was driven to murder by noise from a neighbor's flat was jailed for life.
Was asked their neighbor to turn down his music. He replied by burning down their flat.
It just pursues you like a plague, and it's spreading. So that's why we're trying to fight it and to beat it back a little bit.
Sound and fury, the uphill battle to turn down the volume.
Good evening. Welcome to Witness and the beginning of our new season of outstanding documentaries. I'm Knowlton Nash. Anyone who lives in a city knows it. We are up to our ears in noise. Screaming motors, roaring jets, blaring music, traffic, sirens, subways. And every year the sounds of civilization are getting louder and louder. Noise can make us sick, angry, crazy. It's even driven some people to murder. But as we see in tonight's documentary, there are those who've had enough. They've begun a crusade to turn down the volume and are beginning to make themselves heard above all the sound and the fury.
Noise creates stress in the system. Noise makes you angry.
Noise is a potential killer and can easily drive sensible, sane people to suicide.
The noise tells us, I don't care about you. I'll do whatever I want and I'll do it at your expense. I'll do it because it makes me happy. It's what I want to do.
I've seen people's marriages destroyed because they were so tense and irritable because of their exposure to an unregulated noise source. I've seen people have to sell their houses at fire sale prices.
And it wasn't particularly a loud noise. It would just waft up every day and it would drive me out of my mind. And I just wanted to kill Mr. Softee. Now, who wants to kill an ice cream man?
We're all going to be wearing, versions of Maxwell Smart's cone of silence. We'll have the helmets of silence that we'll wear in order to try and blot out all of this horrible ambient noise.
The din of the modern world doubles every decade, drowning our cities in an ocean of noise. Today, this invisible menace pollutes our communities and threatens our sanity and our health, pitting neighbor against neighbor in a losing struggle for peace and quiet. These are two of the combatants in the war on noise. 37 years ago, Stephen and Amelia Gormley moved into an apartment above a Toronto furniture showroom. In 1995, that shop was converted into a sports bar. The music from downstairs has driven the Gormleys to desperation.
You cannot live here with that kind of noise 24 hours a day. When you cannot sleep, you have a bad temper. You are very on edge.
I did not rent my premises to be part of a bar. I don't think any human being should have to endure this, to be put in the position that we were put in. They can just take over the building and do whatever they want with noise, and we're helpless. I'm nearly on my 74th year. I didn't ask for this. I don't want to be driving up to my daughter's and sleeping up there in the weekend. My wife sleeps with earplugs. I refuse to put earplugs.
I take his little pills, and my doctor says...
I refuse to do that.
And my nerves are very bad, and of course your health is bad. How can you function if you cannot sleep? It's impossible.
New York, New York. So noisy, they had to name it twice. Multiply the Gormley's torment 7 million times, and that's what New Yorkers must put up with. New Yorkers have always confessed a perverse pride in their city's unlivability. But journalist Patrick Cook has found that his neighbors are becoming fed up with the deafening lullaby of Broadway.
New York has always been a loud city. And what happens in a city like New York is that you're constantly separating out noises all day long. Is this noise dangerous? Is that noise dangerous? And thus comes the myth of the hostile New Yorker, who's walking down the street staring at the sidewalk. But what he's really doing is separating out all these noises. He's dealing with this stress. New York has been called the city that never sleeps, but it probably couldn't get to sleep if it wanted to. And that's of course, one of the things you put up with living in New York is that it is open 24 hours a day. But the problem is that it takes years off your life dealing with that constantly. Eventually, New York may not ever go to sleep, but you'd like to go to sleep once in a while.
In the New York borough of Brooklyn, miles of roaring elevated railways snake around the homes of thousands of tormented souls. For 21 years, over 300 trains a day have rumbled past Carmen Santamaria's window. He has founded a group called the Big Screechers, fighting to be heard above the scream of the rails.
My blood pressure is constantly high. There's no way you can talk on the phone and have the train pass by at the same time. Same thing at dinner conversation. Train passes by, conversation stops. We feel that noise assaults you just as badly as if you're being assaulted by a mugger. Somebody's attacking you, robbing you. That when we go on the street, then we can be safe in our environment. Not so much from the mugger, but from this type of train noise where you can't talk and you have to yell out until you get yourself heard. That's the only way you can hear, and then you give up in frustration. Because that noise is going to continue every 2-3 minutes. I give up.
This is a neighborhood. We live here. Our sidewalks and our streets are our front lawn, and we're entitled to have it maintained fairly well.
Tom Bernardin is another activist in a growing movement to turn down the city's volume. His group is called FANNY, Friends Against Noisy New York.
We've got the sirens, we've got the ambulance. We have it all.
New York claims to have some of the toughest anti-noise laws on the continent, but only a handful of agents are assigned to enforce them. Tonight, Ahmad Saloki is patrolling Midtown Manhattan on behalf of the city's Department of Environmental Protection. Saloki and 3 other inspectors are the city's entire line of defense against the man-made thunder of the streets. They issue an average of only 3 noise citations a day.
Yeah, how you doing? Good. We're from Environmental Protection Agency. You know that? Yes. Okay. You have the door open.
Okay, I'll tell them to
The door is supposed to be closed down.
Okay, I'll close it.
We are supposed not to hear the music outside also.
Well, what time?
Anytime.
All
Doesn't matter.
time?
24 hours.
24 hours. I'll close the door
All
right
times.
now.
As long as I don't hear music outside, no problem. Okay? Thank you very much.
Soloki's next stop is an apartment above a corner bar. With a sound meter, the inspector is able to measure a tenant's torment. He will issue a notice of violation to the owners of the tavern.
When people are exposed to an unregulated noise source that they have no control over, the whole complex is called learned helplessness. People who are out there who are exposed to such a noise source, but then are given something to hold on to, you can show that these stress levels have been reduced. And so it is very clear that people who are hopeless now have some hope. And whether or not we're actually able to achieve abatement for them is another issue. I mean, we try as much as we can. I realize that I'm not going to make this a vibration-free planet. I mean, that's ridiculous. What we're going to do is we're going to stand as if this were an actual enforcement situation. We're going to stand in the middle.
On the boardwalk of a suburban beach, Eric Swerling of Rutgers University is teaching police officers and housing authorities how to isolate offending sources of sound from the general background roar. If noise is to be controlled, it will be by objective enforcement. As if New Yorkers needed a reminder that their city is among the most deafening on Earth. 10,000 pairs of earplugs are being handed out at subway stations to mark International Noise Awareness Day.
Last call? Okay, once again.
And free hearing tests are being given to those citizens who can still hear anything at all. Hearing loss is the fastest growing disability in North America. And exposure to excessive noise is the leading cause.
Does it hurt when I touch it like this?
At Times Square, sponsored by the League for the Hard of Hearing, children's posters depict the trauma of growing up in a city that never shuts up.
I, Rudolph W. Giuliani, Mayor of the City of New York, in recognition of the importance of maintaining good hearing and eliminating noise pollution, do hereby proclaim Wednesday, April 24, 1996, in the City of New York as Noise Awareness Day, and it's signed by the Mayor.
Well, I want to thank the Mayor, especially.
Dr. Arlene Bronzaft, a leading anti-noise activist, is New York Mayor Giuliani's ear on noise.
Noise is unwanted sound. The drip of a faucet is noise. Your neighbor's television set, which wouldn't measure loud on a decibel scale, but if you're trying to fall asleep at midnight, is noise. So noise is unwanted, uncontrollable, unpredictable sound that intrudes upon your life. It intrudes when you're studying, when you're working on a project, when you're trying to fall asleep.
All of us emerge from a womb of silence into a world of incessant noise. On the job, in the skies, at play, and at home. Young people especially subject their ears to decibel overload, sometimes nearly as loud as a jet engine, risking permanent damage to their hearing. Canadian musician Rick Emmett, former lead guitarist and singer with Triumph, feels a responsibility to warn his fans about the potential dangers of high-energy rock and roll.
Let's say that you got 72 years of good hearing built into your body, but if you decide in the first 10 or 15 years of 20 years of your life, that you're going to expose your ear to tons and tons of sound pressure and all kinds of frequencies repeatedly. You're going to take that 72 years and you're going to compress it into that time frame, and you're going to be 40 years old and you're not going to be able to hear properly. You break a guitar string, you get it fixed. You break your amp, you can get it fixed. But if you wreck your ears, you can't get them fixed. It's done. You're cooked.
But science has not yet convinced society of the hazards.
The studies supporting the relationship between noise and health has not yet reached the level that we'd like it to reach, the government responsiveness, and the public awareness. So it's as if we were in 1952 talking about cigarette smoking and health. In 1996, we are talking about noise and health, and it's pretty much equivalent. Noise awareness in 1996 is where cigarette smoking awareness was in 1952.
In New York's borough of the Bronx, one of the most densely populated districts in the world, John Dallas has founded the Bronx Campaign for Peace and Quiet.
Second floor, I can hear it. Wow. Look, here we go, the elevated train. That's another major source of noise. Perfect. Perfect. All day and all night. And look how close the buildings are to the elevated train. So imagine what that's like. Plus you have the nuisance in the background, a speaker actually in a window that's infiltrating the whole block with noise. Then here's another source. I don't want to, people hanging out in front of buildings when it gets hot. This goes on all night long. People do it as a form of empowerment. In fact, in the poor communities, noise is one way in which some of the more undesirable elements stake out their territory. They show us who they are by making noise. Drug dealers frequently do it. Hoodlums frequently do it to show you, I'm in control. In fact, it's no different than members of other animal species that, for instance, scratch trees, dig their claws into trees to proclaim that they're territory, or they'll urinate on a tree to show you that that's their territory. This is the way that some people stake out their territory. It's a form of psychological warfare. That's what I've called it, psychological terrorism using sound. Here we go. This is typical. Notice the back is open. He has the music blasting. Typical. Typical. The noise tells us, I don't care about you. I'll do whatever I want, and I'll do it at your expense. I'll do it because it makes me happy. It's what I want to do. So it's a lack of civility at bottom. That's what the noise problem is. It's a lack of neighborliness, a lack of care for other people.
Part of Dallas's crusade is to comfort tormented souls like Joyce Berlin, 40 years in the same apartment as the noise of the city grew louder and louder.
My health has been ruined.
Overall, how has the noise been affecting your health? Like, give me an idea.
Up till now, badly.
Like,
badly.
tell me, like, how badly?
Now,
What's been going on with you?
My stomach goes into knots and I get sick. That's
Like
it. Or I stay up at night waiting for the next bang.
Exactly.
Or it wakes me up at 2 in the morning with whatever they're throwing on the floor.
You can't even live in the place where you're supposed to spend your so-called golden years, and it really does infuriate me. It really infuriates me. We can no longer allow the people that are destroying communities, whether it's with noise or drugs or violence, to have us cowering in fear. We have to band together and fight them and take back our homes.
And we're talking that we lose sleep on the average 2 nights a week, where our son can't study, we have to get up for work. All right?
What they're going to tell us is what laws...
To John Dallas, noise can only be conquered if everyone agrees to make some noise about it. At a church hall, John has convened politicians, police, and parishioners trying to find solutions to make the Bronx a quieter, healthier place to live.
Even the criminal courts. Wherever there is excessive noise, there is spiritual illness. I feel that the farther we move away from the peace and quiet that we should be establishing within ourselves, the noisier we become in the outside world, the noisier we become psychologically, and the more destructive we become and useless to the community around us. The peace and quiet starts within yourself. If you don't have it here, you can't project it to the world. But by the same token, when you don't have peace and quiet in your environment, you can't attain peace and quiet on an inner level. So it's a vicious circle that never, ever, ever seems to end, unfortunately.
karaoke night at Played Again Sports Bar in Toronto, beneath an apartment whose tenants have called the police more than 60 times to complain about the music.
The biggest problem, 90% of the time, is caused by the tapes that is played by the bar. This is the modern type of music, I guess, that the young people like. Has a very loud beat. And when he's got those tapes on, we don't even hear the music. All we hear is the hammer of the beat, pounding on our floor. And this has gone on till sometimes 2 and 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning.
I installate the whole place, 2 feet of installation. I load the music after 11 o'clock.
The noise, it's only a couple of hours a night, okay? And I'm sure those people upstairs, they could live with that. It's just that they don't want to.
Mario Attila has been charged with 4 counts of violating Toronto's noise code. As a result, he says, his bar has become a ghost town. His few remaining customers call it the funeral home.
I'm the victim and I'm the loser. The guy upstairs is a winner because he's got nothing to lose. The most he can lose is a couple of hours of sleep. That doesn't cost him money at all. To me, it's costing me money. Time, effort.
The final chapter is that he's going to close down eventually because business is not doing well. He can't pay the rent, and there's only one person actually to be blamed for regarding the noise control, and it's one tenant upstairs.
The only time we call the police is during the night, and most of the time is after 12 o'clock at night. That's the earliest. So what can we do? I mean, are we harassing? He came here, we were here.
We haven't committed any crime. The law informs us that the people who are breaking the law is the guy underneath us. So why should we have to be driven out of our home?
Sometimes the torture comes from right next door. Stan Witkowski found the onslaught from his neighbor's deliberate all-night music, vacuuming, and screaming was detaching him from his sanity.
At one point we thought we really should move from here. We went around and looked at a number of different houses. Had one become available, we would have actually bought it in the middle of a cemetery. At least it would have been quiet, and certainly the neighbors there would not have caused any kind of noise. What I wanted to do to these neighbors from hell was to go out with a baseball bat and beat their head in. However, that usually doesn't work out very well because sometimes they do the same thing to you. And I guess if you add violence to violence, it usually doesn't really solve any kind of problem. So we instead decided to take the legal solution. We simply went and laid charges on our own because the police and everyone else simply refused to.
For 6 months, Witkowski compiled a meticulous diary, went to court, and won. The neighbor was found guilty of mischief and fined $2,000.
I think it's better to take direct action in the sense it makes you feel better, it's better for society as a whole, and it sends the message to the other people, usually stupid, loud, aggressive people, that you will not tolerate what they are doing to you, whether they are simply inflicting noise upon you or whether they are also threatening or beating you up or whatever. You have to send across the message that you refuse to be intimidated by them and what they are doing is wrong.
In a modern city, there is no end to the sources of torment.
2 streets over, you hear these things. It's constant misery for anyone that is at home.
And I can't understand why people have tolerated up to now, but I think it's one of those things that has evolved right into our society, right in this particular area here, and I think people are just learning to accept it.
This is what's doing some good. This is a very gentle reminder, hopefully, to everybody that we don't need these monsters. They are nothing that is beneficial to any of us.
Still, there are some battles that no individual can win. Each July, when it's racing time in Toronto, the downtown core becomes besieged by the whine of engines. And Noise Control Officer Chris Andrews' job is to explain to the public why this is one noise he can't control.
I can't go and shut the race down. I can't ask them to turn the volume down on the cars because it's expected to be loud. But I think the key thing is that there's someone there to listen
someone there to answer their calls and to explain certain things about the race or certain things they should expect or not expect. And it's an ear for them to talk to, and that, I think, is a big part of being here and a big part of noise control in the city.
Vancouver, a city many Canadians think of as an oasis of tranquility.
The immediate response on that article was great.
But even here, citizens can find themselves up to their ears in unbearable noise. A community action group called the Society for Soundscape Awareness and Protection is represented by Hans Schmidt.
Send a letter to the editor on the...
As a society as a whole, of course, you try to work in community groups, for instance, to spread the awareness about a problem. We think that it is indeed a worthwhile cause to fight the noise pollution, simply because if you don't do anything about it, the problem will only get worse in the future, and people will get actually sicker from it in increasing numbers without even knowing what makes them sick.
Almost 1 o'clock in the morning, people.
Hamilton, Ontario. Chief Noise Control Officer Frank Westaway enforces the city's 24-hour noise bylaw.
Well, I would hope that you'd all kind of take everything inside and...
want it inside, eh?
Yeah. Okay.
That shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
Inside. Digging into my privacy.
Oh, no, I'm not. I'm just coming in as a friend.
He's just saying.
Just telling you that the people have complained, so we're just... Yeah, that's it.
Okay, no problem.
So let's get you all inside and take this gentleman in. Okay?
I try to be nice.
That's all right. I've just got a job to do, that's all. Good evening, good evening, good evening.
Westaway is no amateur activist. He is Hamilton's official party pooper, with the power to back it up. Working in partnership with the police, he can issue summonses, lay fines, and confiscate equipment. His department handles 3,000 complaints a year.
The hardest part about defining what is unreasonable sound is what is unreasonable to you may not be unreasonable to somebody else. If we are 15 houses away from the noise, and we can clearly hear the noise, and as we're walking up to the house it gets louder and louder and louder, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, I will guarantee you that the whole neighborhood will be up and listening to this noise. To us, that is unwanted sound. If somebody is just playing a radio and possibly doesn't like their neighbor for some type of a reason, they just wish to complain, then we have to look at that, is this really a justified noise complaint, or is it just a neighbor-to-neighbor dispute?
Hey, Ken Carr, the only thing I have waiting at this time is the...
On a hot summer evening like this one, the calls come in by the dozens.
10-4, we'll take care of it.
Because he said if I do anything, then you'll have to be more retaliation.
Okay, so let me explain. You're right now afraid that they're going to retaliate and come back and start and give you some trouble. Well,
even walking across the floor, you can hear every footstep.
Okay, well, we're going to deal with this very delicately, but yet we're going to try and get to the bottom of it. What we're going to do is we're going to lay charges against the gentleman, okay, for the stereo and everything that happened last night. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring a police officer in with me. We're going to go upstairs and we're going to talk to the father and to the son. If need be, I'll issue each one of them a fine.
It's a confrontation Westaway has been through many times.
Good day, sir. I'm Frank Westaway with the City of Hamilton. Noise control?
Yeah.
Okay. We got some problems last night with you and your music again.
Last night?
Yep. Yeah, this morning.
23, can we get a 29 on Mel Party, please?
But it wasn't that loud up here.
Maybe to you, okay? Now I've heard a different story. So you have a right to fight this in court, okay? You have a right to go down to the courthouse and set a court date. This is a fine for $125 issued to you. Okay. And if this problem persists, if we get more complaints, we'll come back and issue another summons for you to appear in court. The maximum fine then is $500. If it continues after that, then you can be arrested for mischief. I'm the city chief noise control officer, sir. We got complaints from all these buildings around here.
We've had our anniversary party here for 10 years.
Okay,
roll.
That's fine, sir. That's fine.
No, I have a right to speak my piece as well, so please don't hold me back.
You're
what
one
are
of the
you saying?
organizers?
No, we all live in this building and we all run the building, okay?
6 blocks away from here, we can hear the noise coming from this, and we're getting complaints from people.
What I do to enforce the bylaw doesn't always make me the most wanted person at a home or a party. Maybe popular with the complainants, but not very popular with the people that are violating the law. Some of them feel that they have a right to do what they're doing.
And you feel?
Everybody has a right to their peace and quiet. That's all we're asking.
A Norfolk couple have been sent to prison for 2 weeks because their
In
row
Britain,
kept-
the battle over excessive noise makes headlines, and the news is often tragic.
They were engulfed
The
in
man
flames.
who was driven to murder by noise from a neighbour's flat was jailed for
All
life
the two
today.
women who died in this flat in Wembley had done was ask their neighbour to turn down his music. He replied by
One of its
burning down their
residents was
flat.
jailed after attacking 4 of his neighbours, killing one of them. It was the terrifying climax to a dispute over noise.
What's the matter?
They just thrown a brick through our window. It's our neighbour.
Your neighbour?
Yeah, he's here at the door. Can you please come
In the war on noise, Britain is one of the most active battlegrounds. The number of complaints about excessive noise has risen from 6,000 to 150,000 in 20 years. And the most common dispute by far is neighbor against neighbor. In a tranquil London suburb, Britain's Right to Peace and Quiet campaign has been founded by Valerie Gibson. Since 1991, she has received 50,000 inquiries. It was a neighbor's blaring stereo that finally drove Gibson to a detached house on the quietest street she could afford.
Noise has destroyed our lives. I mean, my life will never be the same. I feel very passionate about it, and I feel very concerned that people don't understand about this particular issue. The general public don't understand how noise affects us. And I've likened it to the passive smoking situation, where we have so many sounds around us now that we have to cope with. I do believe that that is wearing our central nervous system down, and it's having an effect on our psychological well-being.
But a quiet home is not easy to find, and to live near Heathrow is a nightmare that recurs every 90 seconds.
It's been going on since 5 o'clock this morning. I think at the end of the day, it really depends on how long you are actually exposed to your noise problem as to whether you are sent over the edge. And obviously in the long term, it's very concerning if you have to live with it day in, day out, and you're not getting any help. That eventually you could do something quite dramatic. And that does worry me, because I never know from one day to the next when it could be me.
I would describe myself as severely distracted by the noise, and in a state where I lost contact with rational thinking. And eventually I just lost the rag, and I went out and dealt with it myself.
Norm Mackenzie became a folk hero when he attacked a car whose alarm had gone off nightly for 7 months.
This is what happened. I came up to the car, it was 1:30 in the morning. I had a bit of metal conduit piping, with which I first of all attacked the side window to try and get in. I couldn't get in through the side window, so I then attacked the windscreen. I whacked away at the windscreen, discovered it was a plastic glass composition, couldn't get in, so I just hacked and hacked and hacked and hacked until the police came along and took the metal pipe out of my hand, arrested me, took me to the police station and charged me with criminal damage. I just wanted to stop the noise. That's all I wanted to do.
the charges against Mackenzie were dropped. But it was in the seemingly peaceful city of Bristol that one of Britain's most poignant episodes took place. Jeff Edwards is a retired Royal Air Force cook whose quiet home became the scene of a national tragedy.
Jojo, ring the bell. Give a kiss, then. Give a kiss.
Edwards lived in public housing with his wife Valerie, a charity worker. But upstairs was a woman with a fondness for all-night reggae. Edwards complained to his local council 18 times. The neighbor was served with 3 orders to turn down the volume, but she never did.
It was terrible. It was just like a load of bombs coming down. Bang, 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 heavy banging. It was really, really, really noisy, very noisy. It would drum you right out. Yes, you couldn't sleep if you wanted to sleep.
Noise is, without any doubt, a silent weapon. When I say silent weapon, it's not like a gun. It just plays on your nerve. You're expecting it, nothing happens. You're all tensed up, you relax, and then bang, down it comes, and you don't know what the hell to do with yourself. Noise is a weapon, a potent weapon.
When the council's orders were ignored, the neighbor was summoned to court, but she received only a conditional discharge. The music never stopped. The noise grew so intolerable that Valerie Edwards began sleeping on a park bench to escape the torture, even in winter. In 1994, she caught a severe case of pneumonia.
And then came this late Sunday night, and then she took very ill and very bilious, and then she died in the arms.
For a person like that to lose your life through the scum that was up above is, well, it should have never taken place. Mrs. Edwards was a good life wasted through the actions and the noise of the people up above who just couldn't be taught and just wouldn't take any notice.
I think noise is a very powerful tool, undoubtedly, and it has no signs. You know, if you actually hit somebody, obviously that you're going to have bruising to prove that you've actually hurt that person. But with noise, you know, there's no telltale signs of what you've done, and you can switch it on and you can switch it off. And I think that's the most cruelest form of attack that anybody can do.
Not everyone agrees on how much noise is too much noise. In London, one man's melody is another man's menace to society. Nigel Rogers has founded Pipe Down. His war on background music has attracted 4,000 members.
Nice pint of bitter, but it's pity about the pipe music. You ever think of turning it off? There's an organisation called Pipe Down which campaigns against pipe music in all public places, including pubs. Which is a pity because it's a very nice pub apart from the pipe music. I think I've made a convert there.
When Rogers does succeed, a sticker marks a Mantovani free zone.
Pipe music is an important part of noise pollution. It's not difficult to find, it's difficult to escape. You can find it in shops, restaurants, down the telephone, airports, rail and bus stations, in trains and on aircraft too. You can find it down the telephone, you can find it in elevators, hence the name elevator music. It just pursues you like a plague, and it's spreading. So that's why we're trying to fight it and to beat it back a little bit. You know, it's like some poisonous ivy growing around things. We're trying to strip it back a bit. Well, Pipe Down's goal is to restore or to give people the freedom to choose when they want to listen to music and when they don't. There is a time and a place for everything. If you go to a cinema, you choose the film, and you can choose whether you're going to eat popcorn or not. Some people may hate popcorn, but if you sat down and were automatically forced to eat popcorn straight into your mouth, you might object. And it's the same with pipe music. If you go to a restaurant, you're choosing the place to eat and talk. You don't want to be forced to listen to someone else's music, choice of music, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent.
New British legislation has given local governments the authority to fine and even imprison flagrant noise polluters. But this is only the beginning.
We need far better planning, I think, as far as noise control goes. We need to look at housing, insulating properties better. We need to look at controls over noisy equipment that we use in our society, as well as legislation that will control the whole of these things. Some sort of directive needs to come from central government to say what people can do and what they can't do. So I think a combination of things, really. The way I sum it up, really, is we need legislation, education and insulation in our lives to control the whole of the noise issue.
I'm Peter Dixon with Westminster Council Noise Team. I've got your call about the music. Have you called us before about this?
In Westminster, a 23-member team conducts the country's most active anti-noise assault. With a 24-hour hotline and a 60-minute response target, fines can go as high as $10,000, and officers can obtain criminal warrants and seize equipment. Patrolling central London this evening are noise control officers John Wilkinson and John Pierce. Their long night of work begins at a rowdy student party.
All right.
Do you want that torch?
Hello? It's horrendously loud. Really? Yeah. Given the time of night, you really shouldn't be able to hear it at all when you're outside. Well, it's not my house, I don't know. Yeah. So, you're in charge of this?
It's not my house, it's, you know...
You're just a guest, though?
Yeah, well, supposedly. I suppose I'm in charge now, hey?
Where's the house from?
I've absolutely no idea. Where's Jamie? I'll fucking kill him. No, we'll bring him inside. We'll bring him inside. It's no problem. Thank you for telling us. We'll bring him inside. I'm really sorry to bother you. Okay? Okay. Cheers.
Went down there, we actually found the guy whose party it is. He pretended that he'd got no idea that there was a problem being caused. So I told him that there was a problem. We'd been before. They promised to bring the speakers in, they didn't. I gave him a notice which says that if they do create a noise, then we'll be back, we'll prosecute, and we'll even consider seizing the equipment. He seems to be fairly sober, so I think he might take note of that. But I guess we may well be called back later on tonight. Some people just don't take no for an answer.
And if you're called back again, then what?
Well, I guess we'll certainly do a prosecution. But seizure, it has to be a fairly extreme case. But we always threaten seizure, because it brings people to their senses. Well, we hope it does.
Next up, a throbbing after-hours club in Soho.
Is it a humdinger, John?
Let's just stay clear of the water. Now, that's a club I had trouble with before.
It's a children's hostel. Right back here. 16 to 21-year-olds.
Yeah, it's for homeless kids. And they're all in there. Trying to sleep.
We've had a complaint about the noise. That's the reason we're here.
What is the noise?
I'm saying if we need to come back again. What address is it?
Which number?
Why?
Well, in case you need to knock on the door again.
Hi, you know where it is. I got you from the council. You're at the back of the building. We don't know whether to do it down.
There's no need to. It's just incredible.
It's a children's hostel. It's a children's hostel.
No, very loud. It's not enough. You understand? You'll find it. No, I know it's not enough. Yeah, I know it's not enough to say sorry about it. I'm going to pretend it's out. No thanks.
Is that your...
Yeah, that's me. That's taken a long time, doesn't it?
Thanks, okay, all right. She said it's 54. lot better.
So, typical night's work?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
So this was quite successful for a while?
Yeah. Yeah.
They agreed?
They agreed. They've shut the doors. It's a lot quieter. That's what you aim for. I mean, you can't go for perfection. You just go for what you can get sometimes. But that's good result.
Even got an invite to the party.
Yeah.
We can't take it up, of course.
Yeah. You have to be very careful where you're stepping, you know. I think you ought to head off north of the borough now.
Okay.
We're becoming increasingly used to noise levels that are dangerous to us. We've become hardened to it, and therefore we're less inclined to fight it. We say we get used to it, but the fact of the matter is that we should never get used to the noise levels that are plaguing many of the communities.
The issue with noise is one of will. It isn't one of way. We know what to do. We don't want to do it. It's much more difficult to try to solve a problem when there are a few ways of solving it. I don't think I could do as well with crime prevention or drugs, but I know there are ways to quiet a community. And one of the easiest is to have a society that's more respectful of other people's rights.
In Toronto, in the case of the noisy sports bar, a $1,000 fine has been paid by Mario Attila. His bar is under court order to operate more quietly.
I'm going to run the same business as I was running before, in a different way, like controlling the level of the music much, much lower than what it was before, in order not to go through those charges anymore.
It's a hollow victory, because to him really is a slap in the wrist. He's getting rid of us. I think the victory is his, not ours.
Stephen and Amelia Gormley do not trust the system. After 37 years, they're moving out.
I'm moving because I know this situation will not improve. What does it matter if you get a conviction? We'll wait another 12 months for another trial for that? You know, it's no good battering your head against a stone wall.
It took me a long time to decide to move, because I didn't want it. Everything in here that I need is here, and I really counted on staying here the rest of my life. But there's no choice. It's that or die, because there's no other way.
I got to continue to run my business in order to stay alive. This is the only thing I have. For them, probably it's a game. For me, it's not a game.
If the people upstairs are saying that they're moving out, you know, what was all the point for this? So really, who's really the winner and who's the loser around here? If you really think about it, I think it's just a game that those people upstairs were playing.
We are not doing it as a game or anything. It's just because we have to. Simple. It was their game, not our game. All we want is peace.
Next week on Witness, the red light district of Bombay.
For thousands of children forced into prostitution, these mean streets are home. How did they get here? And what's being done to stop the exploitation? A shocking glimpse inside India's booming child prostitution market. The selling of innocence. Coming up next week on Witness. Molson Hockey Night in Canada on CB.